Soundcast.
This is a Village Soundcast Network original production.
This is Less Than Live with Kate or Die, a bi-weekly podcast about comics from all angles. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm reading and doing in the industry, as well as interviewing some of my friends and favorite creators. So come along with me on this journey into geek culture. On this episode of Less Than Live, I discuss writing Fraggle Rock and Edward Scissorhands. I swoon over new books, including The Wicked and the Divine, Through the Woods, and Seconds, then talk to punk rock Dreamboat and Batgirl artist Babs Tarr. Welcome back, everybody. It is episode 3, and I am happy to be here. In the last couple of weeks, all that stuff that I kept hinting at, it got announced, and shit got real. So if you know me or my stuff at all, I am a comic writer, and I have just been announced as the writer of 2 series, and one of them is Fraggle Rock, which is very exciting. I'm writing a 4-issue miniseries for Boom Studios that is being drawn by Jake Myler, who is an absolutely incredible artist. He's a digital painter and has worked on some Fraggle stuff before, and it is just gorgeous. It's a really fun story called Journey into the Everspring. It's all about doozers. If you were a fan of the Fraggles growing up, doozers might have been one of your favorite parts. They were definitely one of mine. And I'm very excited about it. And I think it's going to be really great. And that starts coming out in early October 8th. And the other thing that I'm working on is Edward Scissorhands, which is nuts for me. I talk a lot every time I'm interviewed about it, about being a goth teen, and it's funny. You know, it's a kind of a cute anecdote because it is, but it's so true. I was an Emily the Strange obsessed, Dickies wearing fishnet sleeved eyeliner obsessed teenager, and Tim Burton was a god to me at that age. And, you know, when I was offered the opportunity to work on that, it just, I did not believe it was real. I still don't believe it's real. It's starting to settle in now that it's actually been announced, but that project is being drawn by Drew Rausch, and he is awesome. You know, the guy, I think he comes from a very similar stock of weirdo, and our editor, Sarah Gatos at IDW, who's putting it out, is also, you know, we're all weird. We're all weird kids. And making this project together, which is going to be a 5-issue miniseries that is, it's a kind of a sequel but to the movie, but it's also its own story. I mean, it takes place within the same world, and it deals with the same themes, but we're definitely not taking the approach to it of like, you know, we're not retconning anything. We're not making the unnecessary, it's Edward Scissorhands, but with dinosaurs kind of thing. It's really embracing the world and embracing the spirit of it, as well as trying to tell a new and interesting story. And I'm really stoked for that to come out, and it should be around Halloween. And all this stuff is going to be announced and talked about further at San Diego Comic-Con, which is coming up very soon. And everyone I know is stressed out of their minds about it, but I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be in Brooklyn watching Katy Perry in concert, which is going to be great. I have just come back from a small library show called Instacon, which was just outside of Philadelphia in a place called Kennett Square. And I did a little show there that was put together by one of the Valkyries, the group that I run for women who work in comic shops. One of the girls in it, Ivy, works at this library and put together this show. And she is a crazy workaholic and kind of created this awesome thing for the teens that are, this is a shout out to BTML teens, by the way, you guys are amazing. Ivy and her very competent group of teens put together this sweet show, and they brought me down, and I had a really great time. So that was awesome. I did a signing at the comic book shop in Wilmington, Delaware, which is a very sweet little store. I say little is actually, it's bigger than my comic shop. It was really great, and people were super awesome about it. So, you know, that's where I've been. Had a hellish 24-hour ordeal of flying home and sleeping on the floor of an airport, but such is the life of a traveling celebrity. Not a celebrity, a person who sleeps on floors. So that was great. And in the midst of all that, when I finally landed in Canada, back in my homeland, and was greeted with the glorious bars of Wi-Fi on my phone, Edward Scissorhands had finally been announced, and I was bleary and exhausted and hateful. And in that moment, everything sort of shifted, and I was really excited because comics is a waiting game. It's a long time between when you start putting together a pitch and when the world knows about it, and even between then and when you see it in print. It'll have been almost a year. So, keep that in mind if you're a person who ever wants to get into comics, or if you're a person who's in web comics and transitioning into print comics, that you need patience. So that's what I've been up to, and it's been a crazy exciting time, and I'm sort of in between shows right now, just kind of working on getting everything done, and I'm excited about life in general.
What is Kate reading?
What am I reading now?
What is Kate reading?
What am I reading now?
I spent a lot of time on my extended travel delays catching up on comics. I've been talking to you in both these previous episodes, you, the listener, you, the faceless old people who live in my home, about Through the Woods, the collection that Emily Carroll did. And I can tell you now that it is finally available, and you can buy it. It exists in the world. The paperback version is only $15, and if you're not willing to spend that on one of the greatest comics you will ever read, then there's nothing that I or anyone else can do for you. If you like horror stories, if you like indie comics, if you like feeling like there's something kind of crawling under your skin while you read, which I personally do, you have to check it out. This is a collection of stories that Emily has released both online and exclusively for the book. It has a really cute and creepy introduction that sets the tone super well. I've been talking about it and saying you should pick it up and saying you should order it, but here I am telling you that I have actually read it. I've held it in my hands. I have sold it to people. And you got to check it out. Emily just did a book launch for that at the Beguiling in Toronto, which is one of my favorite stores. And I think it went over super well. My friend Sam Maggs, who works for the Mary Sue and is writing an awesome book about women in geek culture, kind of presented that. And I was super jealous that I couldn't be there. So it sounded great. The other big launch this week was Seconds, the follow-up, well, not a follow-up to Scott Pilgrim, but the newest book from Brian Lee O'Malley, who was the creator of Scott Pilgrim. And this has been really hyped, and it's been a long time coming, and I've been seeing process art for this for years now, and it finally exists. So it's a self-contained graphic novel with amazing colors by Nathan Fairbairn, who's been doing the color versions of Scott Pilgrim. And Dustin Harbin doing the lettering, who in his own right is an amazing cartoonist and kind of a staple in the indie comics world. So there's a really neat group of people working on this together. And I would say pick it up if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim, but I would also say pick it up if you are a fan of Studio Ghibli movies and of alternate realities. It's definitely got kind of a little bit of a creepy feeling to it. Very different from Scott Pilgrim, which was, kind of a fight story, a lot of video game references, and very fun and upbeat. And this definitely has a slower pace and a quieter tone. But it is beautiful. And, Brian Lee O'Malley obviously has crazy stepped up his art game for this. Some of the layouts, the paneling in it is just, and you can see it's someone who's been working for a long time and has been doing nothing but improving his craft. So I sound like a suck up, but it's true. It's a beautiful book. I read the whole thing in one night. I couldn't put it down, and that takes a lot for me because I am very easily distracted. So definitely check out Seconds. He's touring around with that right now, and he's actually going to be in Halifax, where I am from, doing a signing on August the 2nd. So my comic shop, Strange Adventures, is putting that on. Gotta plug it. It's going to be exciting. Other new books that came out this past week on July the 16th were the first volumes of both Deadly Class and Black Widow. I had mentioned Deadly Class a little bit before, and up in our interview later, Babs Tarr talks about how great it is because it is so great. And that first volume, like every Image first volume, is $10. Awesome story about a homeless kid who gets recruited to a school of assassins. The art is Super great. I talked about it before. You know what it's about. But you should pick it up. A beautiful volume. They did some spot gloss on the cover, which if you're kind of a design nerd like me it's pretty exciting. Black Widow is the first volume of the newest arc by Phil Noto, kind of the newest interpretation of the character. Really great to pick up if you don't know the character, if you're not really familiar with her, or you kind of have a passing interest because of the Avengers movies, which is fine, anything that gets you reading comics. Phil Noto's art is beautiful. He doesn't do a lot of interiors, so it's exciting to see him doing an ongoing project and really kind of pushing himself artistically, it feels like, more and more, and telling a really cool spy story. And if you're into spy stories, you got to pick up Velvet, Volume 1, which is out a couple weeks ago. But that is Ed Brubaker's, and I'm not sure if I already mentioned it, but seriously, $10. Image, never change. Also, the last week, I believe, was the first volume of Rocket Girl, similarly $10, if I can remember correctly, by Amy Reeder doing the art, and that is a super fun sci-fi series. If I get repetitive, it's just because I get really stoked about good comics. And I get excited about good first volumes because there's nothing more exciting than being able to get somebody into a series or into a character or even into a comic shop in the first place. So try them out, pick them up. It's a thing that I wish more comic companies would adapt, and it was sort of something that feels like Image almost stumbled into with the first volume of The Walking Dead being $10 and then the first volume of Saga being $10. And that selling, thousands of copies. And somebody obviously made the choice to continue that trend, and that's awesome. So, yeah, try a new series. The worst thing that can happen is you're out $10. And, the best thing that can happen is you try something new. So those I really, really love. It's been mostly book reading for me lately. I'm keeping up with single issues, reading all kinds of stuff. The Adventure Time number 30 was done in a really awesome zine style. It's on newsprint paper. A whole bunch of different artists contributed to it. Indie comic staples like my friend Becca Tobin and Liz Prince contributed stories. It's super fun. It's really different. I don't know how kids are going to feel about it, but it's really cool and it's neat. And hopefully it feels like something that would inspire somebody to maybe try making comics of their own. Miss Marvel, the newest issue just came out, and Jake Wyatt is doing the art probably for a couple issues. And if you've been a fan of Adrian Alfona's art on the series, I feel like it blends really, really well. And this is the thing that I felt like Hawkeye did so successfully with David Aja and as the artist, and then with artists that came on to work on it, like Annie Wu and Chris Samney, being so complimentary in terms of style. And this, I kind of think, is the same thing. It's very smart. It can be really jarring when a series you're reading brings on a supplementary artist or, an occasional artist, and the style is super, super different. And people are very fickle. You can stop reading a series just because, one issue is drawn by someone you don't like. But this is really smart. Jake's stuff is super funny. Wolverine shows up. There are evil alligators. And I love it. I love the interactions. I love that this new Miss Marvel, that Kamala Khan is being so welcomed into the Marvel universe without forcing you to read a whole bunch of crossovers. So that's really, really awesome. And, keeping up with all the regulars. Still reading She-Hulk. Still loving She-Hulk. And I don't even know if I've properly mentioned it. And it's kind of my last big plug for the week is The Wicked and the Divine. And I talked about it a bit with Brooke Allen last episode when we were talking about comics that we're reading. But Wicked and the Divine is Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, who worked on Young Avengers and on Phonogram together. And it's one of those series that I'm 2 issues in, and like a lot of people, I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Felt the same way when I read Pretty Deadly. Felt the same way when I read a lot of books, but I always hold out faith that it will begin to come together. And usually when it does, it's super satisfying, as it was with Pretty Deadly. It's a story kind of about this pantheon of gods who every 90 years or so comes back and inhabits the bodies of young people, and they're famous and loved and hated, and then we are told within 2 years they're dead. We don't know a lot of information yet. There's a really hot David Bowie-looking Lucifer lady. There's just a whole bunch of awesome characters. Rihanna shows up as Sekhmet. It's great. And it's an independent title, original it's really fun. I love Jamie's art. These guys make really fun, great comics. Young Avengers was super fun and accessible. And this is very different, but totally worth checking out. So try some new comics. Go buy more comics. Just do it. It's good for you.
She's so sweet. Caleb is gonna answer your tweets.
My friend Sarah McHenry, who is at Yellow Cardigan on Twitter, asks, Kate, what other superhero comics are good if I've never read any until now? I'm reading She-Hulk, Hawkeye, and Miss Marvel. Sarah, you have really good taste. And I may have recommended all of these things to you. But anyway, so I'm not reading a lot of ongoing current superhero comics. I'm reading those titles, and I'm reading Captain Marvel, and I'm reading Black Widow. I'm reading The Ladies. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of recommend collections, because that's sort of, that's what I tend to use to get people into comics, because it can be hard with single issues. And it really depends on what you like. Now, I definitely recommend the new Daredevil series that Chris Samnee is drawing, that Mark Waid did. So basically Daredevil had an earlier run that got up to 30-ish issues, and that's collected into books now that you can get pretty easily. And if you like Hawkeye, it definitely has a similar look and is kind of more in that same vein of being more about the character than about crazy intergalactic space battles or, super complicated storylines. So that's definitely accessible in a really cool way. And a lot of the newer Marvel titles are doing that or trying to do that. Always recommend Young Avengers. It's a short run, but it's very good. The older collection of Young Avengers and the new ones, they're all really great. Runaways is really fun. It's a series that's been finished now, but definitely and especially the earlier volumes are a teen, a superpowered teen group, very much in the same vein as the X-Men, who find out that their parents are supervillains. So they're kind of forced out on their own. There's a lot of, representation of different people of color, different sexual orientations. And that was something that, people and I really love about the X-Men, but I find the X-Men a lot of the time very difficult to get into. So definitely Runaways. In terms of Batman, Superman, there's a lot of good standalone books, even if you don't want to get into the ongoing continuity. There are a couple Batman ones I really love. Batman Ego, that's a Darwin Cook collection of a bunch of shorter stories that is really, really awesome. And he and Ed Brubaker, I believe, also did a really great run on Catwoman, which Cameron Stewart later did some on. That was really good and has an awesome Catwoman costume. So that's super fun. Batgirl and Robin Year One is a book I always recommend. And Superman Red Sun is a really cool Elseworlds book, which is kind of like if Superman, instead of having landed in, small town America, landed in Russia. So it's very different. And Batman shows up as Batman Kopf. I always recommend Elseworlds books because they're usually standalone and they're usually self-contained. Or stories that kind of were built to be their own story, like Spider-Man Blue, which is a really great Spider-Man story, even though I don't really read Spider-Man. A lot of the times, your best situation is to go into a comic book shop, talk to the person there, if they're nice, about what you like, and they can usually give you kind of more tailored recommendations. But I would say start with some of those. At Ben Etherington asks, I just saw a pirated comic master post on Tumblr. Okay for people who can't afford local stores or not at all? This is iffy. Everyone's a pirate of one thing or another. I think in a generation where we're all on our computers and don't have unlimited funds, it's safe to say most people download something. But I can't condone comics. I know it's probably hypocritical, but I've worked in comic book stores for years, and I love comics, and I care about the comic book industry, so I can never implicitly say, yeah, sure, you should download that. I would way rather people pay for the titles that I have written than steal them. I think the same is to say for anyone. You would rather sell a print of your art than have someone take it off your table or print it themselves at home. I think if you can't afford a comic, there are so many free comics online. There are so many webcomics that you can read without paying for anything or paying by donation or supporting in some other way. there's an unlimited amount. On Tumblr, on Twitter, like comics that have their own websites, there's superhero stuff, there's autobiographical stuff. There's so much out there that you can have access to that I think if you're not really willing to pay for, stuff that had to be worked on by a large team of people, editors and shippers, and it's not just the artist or the writer. Everyone needs to benefit from the comic selling well. And in an industry that is losing money because it's print, there are other ways too. I mean, you've got Comixology, where you can buy comics online and you can read them digitally, or you can still support the creators that way. I think that's really awesome, and I definitely recommend that for people who don't have access to a local comic book store. Although even if you don't, many comic book stores will mail to you. This is a very common service. So, look to the alternatives instead of stealing. Don't steal from cartoonists. We're not rich. Nobody's in this business to get a mansion. So do what you can. Our third question also comes from @Ben Etherington because he asked 2 really good questions, and I'm not too proud. Which is, in light of DashCon, what do you, as a frequent con goer, think makes a good, bad, or horrible con? And for those who might not have been paying attention to Tumblr over the weekend because you have a life or children or obligations, DashCon was a fan-organized con about Tumblr, basically, and I wasn't there. I don't know a ton of information about it, so I can't speak to it super knowledgeably, but from what I heard, it was kind of an organizational disaster. The money for it was not available. Performers were not compensated. People whose hotels were supposed to be covered for the convention, their hotels were not covered. They were forced to pay for it, and a lot of people left. And the short story is that the crew of Welcome to Night Vale, my favorite podcast, just my favorite podcast, were meant to perform at this convention, and they were not compensated. And they are performers. They have to make a living. They have to tour. They have to eat. And it's totally reasonable for people who are not being compensated for their work to walk away from the work. So they did not perform. And who could blame them? Because if you showed up to your job and they said, yeah, we're just not going to pay you today, you would not feel any obligation to do said job. So people who came to the show and were waiting to go see this performance were compensated by an extra hour in the ball pit, which was, and I've seen photos, and anyone can see photos, literally a half-inflated ball pit in the middle of the floor, which, according to rumor and legend that I want to believe, someone had peed in. This is real life, and this is what happens when, there's no excuse for it. And it's horrible, and I feel so bad. And a lot of people said that they did have good experiences there, but from a professional standpoint, it seemed like a disaster. And I don't think I'm out of line saying that because everyone has said that. So after that point, what makes a good, bad, or horrible con? I have been to a lot of really great cons. I've been super fortunate. I haven't had any really terrible experiences in terms of organization or, staff or things like that. I've been to shows where the staff have seemed like they weren't really properly trained for the experience or were not interested in comics, and, that's fine. But I've never had anyone tell me that I couldn't get back my very expensive performance ticket, but I could instead sit in a ball pit, which was free, by the way. So getting an extra hour in the ball pit. Anyway, I think really great cons come down to being run by people who understand conventions, who've been to a lot of conventions, who know retailers and vendors and artists and ask them for their input. Two of my favorite conventions in the world are Emerald City Comic Con and TCAF. And Emerald City, I've mentioned, it's a larger convention. It definitely has celebrity guests and is closer to the scale of a New York Comic Con or a San Diego. But it is run by people who really care, who are very adamant about listening to what people want from a convention and enforce really important things like the cosplay is not consent rule, which means that you are not to harass or take photographs of cosplayers without their consent. I mean, obviously, you never have the consent to harass someone, but generally an enforced environment of respect and fun and enforced environment of respect. But it's true. And, they really encourage you to report bad behavior, and they really work hard at improving the environment for everybody. And TCAF is an independent comics show. It's a smaller show in a library. I mean, it's a big library. But again, it's run by people who really care about the artists, and they really listen to feedback. And it's a free show, too, which is really cool, because I think charging exorbitant fees for people to come to your convention rather than leaving them with that money to spend on the artists and on the vendors that you have at your convention can be a little silly. Once you've got $100 out of your budget to actually just get into the show, that's $100 less than you can spend on the people that are coming to the show. And while I understand that obviously costs need to be covered, and I'm not blaming any show that charges an admission fee because most of them do, and you have to pay for the venue and you have to pay for the artists and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying it's neat when shows do kind of put that focus on the artists, And I think it's shows who listen. It's shows that want it to be fun and care. It's kind of the same with any business. It's just being mindful, listening to your feedback, and making sure everybody has a good time rather than just trying to make money. And that's just a good attitude to take with anything. So, in conclusion, pay your artists, pay your performers, and don't let anyone pee in the ball pit. Up next, we are going to talk to Babs Tarr, the recently announced artist of the new Batgirl series, which everyone in the entire world seems to be excited about. But before that, let me sell you something. This podcast is now brought to you by Audible.com, where you can get a free download and a 30-day free trial just by going to audibletrial.com/lessthanlive. That's Less Than Live, all one word, all caps. There are over 150,000 titles to pick from for whichever device you prefer to use to listen to smooth, sexy audiobooks. Got a thing for British accents and great stories? I recommend The Ocean at the End of the Lane or any one of a dozen titles by Sandman author Neil Gaiman. Just hit up audibletrial.com/lessthanlive.
Kate's gonna interview you. Kate's gonna interview you now. She's gonna ask a question. Kate's gonna interview you. Kate's gonna interview you now. This is the interview section.
All right, so today I am talking to Babs Tarr, who is the artist on the upcoming new Batgirl series from DC, which is really exciting. It has a lot of people excited, and I can't stop talking about it. Hi, Babs.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is insane. I did not expect it to get such a reaction.
It's been nuts. I mean, I have not... I've only been super into comics for a couple of years, but, even when the Captain Marvel redesign came out, and people were really excited about that, and it is awesome. The response to this has been... I've never seen that much fan art come out.
Yeah, and it's been 5 days now.
Yeah. I saw a photo of someone in cosplay this morning.
Yeah, there's been a couple. There's been a couple already.
That's, how does that feel? That must feel totally...
It's
nuts.
insane. Well, my illustrations have been cosplayed before, so that's pretty cool. But I'm a little used to it now.
Yeah.
But the happen so fast is I can't even imagine. It's I don't know. I just didn't expect this. It's really insane. I guess it feels like people must have been really hungry for something like this to come out, for this tone to be hit.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to kind of explain to the guys who record the podcast, why this is such a big deal and, why this is really hitting with people. And it's kind of hard to explain. It's just people were just so hungry for something new and accessible.
Accessible. Yeah, that's such a good word for it. I feel like I'm finishing up some pages and I'm sharing them with Cameron and we're like, oh, I like that face. No, this is cool. And I'm just like, man, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of our readers because I feel like I wish I had this comic to read when I was little. Because I always liked comics and I was an illustrator and I was into art and it was so close. And I was I'd go into comic shops and I'd be like, yo, do you have something like fun and like with like some flirt in it and sassy, and like they wouldn't really know what to give me. And I thought, oh, well, they're dudes, like maybe they don't read that kind of thing. And then I'm realizing now that it must have not really been there, maybe.
I don't think it was in the same way that, I don't know, that it kind of is now. Like, I started trying to get into superhero comics when the New 52 started, and I got like a couple issues in. Didn't really follow through with a ton of it, but I'm loving like a lot of the new Marvel stuff. Like I love Miss Marvel and I love She-Hulk, and because it is kind of accessible. Yeah, She-Hulk is awesome. I love that comic so much. So it's so neat. Like it's neat to see that DC is doing this and kind of taking a chance. Like it's so different than everything else that they're putting out right now.
Man, I just, when Cameron initially like proposed this to me, he didn't tell me what it was, but he did tell me, it was like, oh, like for DC. And I'm like, do you email the right person? Because number one, like I hadn't done sequential work before. And number two, like my stuff looks nothing like anything that they've published.
Well, that's what I think is so cool about it.
Yeah. So I was like, when he emailed me, I was very like, of course I'd love to be a part of that project. You know, like these are the logistics of me, but like, you know, if you are willing to work with that, like, so am I, you know?
Yeah. Cause there's been a lot of announcements about it and a lot of talk about the series and your name attached. And I think it's really cool because a ton of people have probably been finding you and your art through, you've been on MTV and like CNN, like,
I know.
which is crazy because I've been a huge fan of your stuff for years. And I remember, because, you probably wasn't supposed to, but Cameron told me about it before it was announced to just kind of like bounce it off me because, to see how people were feeling about it. And I was freaking out.
Really?
Oh, I was so excited. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm working on Batgirl. I was like, oh, that's super cool because I love your comics. That's awesome. He's like, yeah, so guess who's drawing it? I'm like, what? And he told me, and I thought I was going to lose my mind. Just because it's so different and it's so fun. So, did he just, like, contact you out of the blue? Or?
Out of the blue. It was Cameron literally emailed me. He was like, you probably know who I am. And I did, because I follow him on almost all the social medias. And
right.
He was like, I'm working with this writer, and it's like a superhero girl. And I can't tell you who it is yet, but we're talking to DC about it. And, would you be interested, was the first email. And of course I wrote, yes, of course I'd be interested. And then, he emailed me again. He was like, so the way it works, it sounded like, is that Batgirl's up for grabs. And then a bunch of writers can submit ideas for the next, like where it can go next. So he hadn't even had the job yet officially.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when he was contacting me, like, I think it goes like the writers get a story together and then they submit the story along with like ideas of people to draw it. And I know it was like my name along with 20 other artists.
Wow.
And I heard that and I was like, okay, well that's insane if they pick me. I just didn't think I had a chance. Like I knew my style was cool and stuff, but like why would DC Comics like put their faith in me? And it's like really because Cameron like is vouching for me, and he, we talked about it a lot about like the logistics of like how fast I could like page and ink and stuff. And I'm just like, if we want this thing to like move fast, like you might want to do the layouts. And that's like kind of how we got to that. Like I did some test pages eventually when the editor contacted me.
Right.
They were like, do you have any sequential work? And I was like, I know that I don't have sequential work. Like I was thinking that in my head. Had been talking with Cameron, so I know she knew I did not have sequential work. Right. So I was like, no, I don't, but I would love to do some test pages for you. So all about my lonesome. I did 2 pages, and the first one, like Cameron wrote the scenes for me. He like wrote a little scene for me to do. Right. And I like paneled it and sketched it and stuff. And the first page turned out really good because it was just like like her getting up in the morning and like going out the door.
Right.
And then the second page, I ran into some trouble because it was like action. Like I started getting into action beats, which I don't usually draw like all the time. So like the cute posy, like, oh, I'm brushing my teeth and oh, I'm walking out the door. Like I was good with that stuff, but the action stuff I kind of stumbled on. So I think it'll be good to have him help me with that, with those layouts, and have him help with the layouts and stuff like that. Like the whole storytelling part of it is just.
Well, I think that's really neat because it's something, you know, in terms of collaboration, like it's normally pencil or inker, colorist or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, with Cameron, who's been doing this for years and years and years and has so much experience, you know, setting up a page layout for something like this, it's really neat to have him. So is it just like, you know, where the panels are going, or is it like, you know, here's where the figures are going to be?
Yeah, it's like there's like kind of line work in the background for like, if it's a building or like a room, like he'll add a little bit of line work in the background, and then he'll have where the people are and like kind of which way they're looking, you know, and a little bit of like outfit detail. Like his layouts right now are like really detailed for the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're way more detailed than I need, and I like told him that, and he's like, oh, you know, I'm just being like really fastidious for this first one because like, you know,
yeah, the first one's a pretty big deal.
Be like really good. And I was like, okay, I understand that. But, you know, I was trying to like, I felt bad. I felt a little guilty that to have him do the layouts because I know they're like a lot of work, but apparently not for him because he's a super speed demon and such a pro. But, you know, I was feeling guilty, and I was like, okay, well, you know, I don't need that much detail, but if you want to put it there, that's, you know, like, I'm not going to stop you. So the first one, he only has the issue one layouts right now, so the first one has turned out pretty detailed, but, you know, hopefully he'll see that I can nail it without all that, and he can, like,
I think so. I mean, I think you're building up, you know, a creator, or like a creator sort of relationship that way.
Yeah, we're like figuring out the process right now.
Yeah, it's like that, I think, with any team. I mean, I'm working on stuff with a bunch of different artists, and it's different with everybody about how much description they want. And, you know, because there's some artists that I'm like writing scripts for where I can just be like, you know, if it's Adventure Time, I can be like, you know, this just panel is just Jake and he'll know what to do or whatever. But other artists want more detail and want more specifics. And, you know, you figure out, you get a rhythm, and I think that'll totally happen. Are you doing the color too?
No, Jordy's doing the color.
Oh, right. Oh,
Jordy Belair. And then
Jordy's a goddess.
Yeah, she seems really cool, and I really hope I don't make her mad. That's all.
No, I doubt it. She's really, really awesome. I feel like you guys would totally get along.
And I was like, Jordy, like, I'm gonna try my very best to like never turn in pages late to you. And she's like, as long as you don't like go hide out in your art hole and not like, you know, talk to me or let me know what's going on, like, I don't care. She was like, I mean, of course, give me the pages on time, but it's like, if you can't, like, don't go radio silent on me. And I was like, yeah. I can do that.
I haven't had to deal with that too much, but it seems kind of scary that someone just like stop responding. So yeah. No, I think you guys will gel, and it really feels like a lot of really good elements coming together. Jordy doing colors is amazing.
It's so nice. Like, I can't get over it. Like,
and Brendan too, who seems
Brendan
really cool.
Is so funny. He like, I haven't met him yet, but he feels like a silly anime character to me right now. Like, he's really funny, and like Cameron's great too, but he's a little more of a straight man. Yeah. And I was like, oh, we've been texting each other through all this craziness, and it's just funny to like see them interact.
Yeah, I could see that. I had just met Brendan sort of through this Batgirl thing, basically, just being overly enthusiastic. And then we started following each other. So he seems really, really nice. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really trying to take their cues, like those boys, you know, because they've been through this comic stuff before, and this is all new to me, like, especially to this, like, these many eyeballs have never been on me before, so this is, like, seeing what they tweet and how they react and, like, their responses to things. Like, Karen's so impressive the way he kind of talks to people on Twitter. I feel like he even, like, confronts people about their thoughts and, like, even if they're negative and stuff, like, I don't know. I'm afraid I'd, like, lose a fight, like, in public.
There's an art to it, I think.
Yeah, it's
To
really
social
impressive. I'm
media.
learning. Like I'm watching those guys. Like this whole thing is like a crash course. This is like the crash course for me right now. This is very intense.
It doesn't get much bigger. Than
Great.
For well, I mean, you know, you could dance around it and be like, no, it's not.
All downhill from here, Babs.
I think it's gonna be huge. I mean, I can't because I run this group, the Valkyries, which is this group for women who work in comic shops, and Cameron's been talking to me because he wants to connect with us, and you know, because it is this group, this huge group of female retailers or women retailers, and you know, we are stoked. Like the reaction, I mean, you saw the comic, but it's been crazy. It's just like so many girls, and not just in our group, but from what I've seen online, like one of the most common things I've seen them say is like either I've never bought a DC comic and I'm going to start, or I stopped buying DC comics and I'm going to start again. And that like even in the group, it's been the same thing. It's just been like, wow, this is giving me a reason to check this out. And man, I'm glad DC is embracing it and paying attention to it and like giving it, you know, the support that it deserves.
Yeah, me too. Like, I think, you know, they're gonna, because of the reaction it got, like, we've been talking with them, and I think they're gonna rally behind us, like, super hard. Like, we're gonna get some good promo action going on.
I'm stoked. And, like, probably 14 girls in the Valkyries ordered those yellow Doc Martens. I'm not joking.
I heard they're, like, almost impossible to find now.
Yeah. When I bought a pair.
I want a pair. Someone wanted to send me a pair to sign.
You should let them. That's awesome.
I told them they could.
I'm going to get you to sign mine when I'm at Boston. See?
I want to sign so many yellow Doc Martens.
Well, I had to get them shipped to Betty, our mutual friend, Betty Fellon.
She's great.
Because I'm staying with her for Boston. And the only way I could get the shoes was because I live in Canada, so I'd have them shipped to
she told
her.
me that.
Yeah. So I'm just like, you're not allowed to steal them because I know you would. But I think she got her own pair. So
Oh, yeah, she did. She told me she did. She's like, I'm not going to do that exact costume, but I'm going to do like my Betty Felton version of it.
But she does that like Batman
You do it.
66
You do it.
Batgirl outfit that's so amazing.
So cute. Yeah, I drew it for her.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I saw that. That was so cute.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, backstory for anybody listening who doesn't know. The day that the Batgirl, that this creative team was announced, our friend Betty Fellon, who does the Best Cosplay Ever feature on Comics Alliance and is like a cosplay expert, posted a link to the Doc Martens website where they had the exact Batgirl yellow, like rubberized Doc Martens, and they were on sale, like crazy on sale. That specific day, which was so weird. I feel like there's got to be a nerd somewhere at Doc Martens.
Yeah.
But in the morning, they had every size, and by the time I checked it at night before I went to bed, they were out of every size except for the two smallest ones. Which is not, I mean, that's, you know, it's one thing, too. It's not just, you know, the fan reaction to the excitement about the comic and, like, people buying the comic. It's just, like, it blows my mind when I think about retailers who don't market to women and to girls and to like younger women because clearly we will throw money at this stuff.
Oh my gosh, like just teenage girls in general, or not even, you know, like not teenage girl, like me still, but you know, like I feel like we have this type of obsession, this undying obsession. If you like hit the right chord, like you're gonna make money off them for a really long time.
I mean, like I have the haircut that I have is half because of Lumberjanes and half because of Captain Marvel.
yeah.
We will go to extreme lengths to express our fandom, and so I will wear those yellow Doc Martens, and not everyone will know that it's because of Batgirl, but you know that's my favorite kind of thing. It's that like subtle homage, to the stuff that you like Sailor Moon necklaces and stuff. You know, it's just like little things.
Oh yeah.
So I first found your stuff probably through, it's been like a couple years, but definitely the biggest thing for you, I mean, in terms of exposure before this was probably those biker gang Sailor Scouts.
The Bozazuko biker scouts.
Yeah, which are awesome. And I've seen a lot of cosplay of that.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
It's so fun. Yeah, I love it. People do their little interpretations of it, which is so neat to see how they translate my illustrations to like real life. And sometimes it's like it really sings. Like they take it like beyond like what I could have imagined, and that's the coolest. That's like the coolest part.
What's so neat? I mean, I've only had a couple experiences with people cosplaying because I've mostly worked on, licensed stuff or someone else has been drawing. But like, it's got to be so neat to think about the fact that like this group of, because a lot of the time I've seen it be 5 friends, like they'll do the whole inner senshi as a group of people. And you think about the fact that like this group of 5 people spent probably months or like definitely dedicated weeks putting this together.
Did you see the one where they actually got the motorcycles?
No. What?
Yeah, there's one up there. If you go to my Facebook page, my like fan page one, there's this gallery section called Babs Con, and it's like it's like all the cosplayers, like, and I have to update it because there's been ones this past couple weeks that did the Chun-Li girl the Chun-Li character.
Right, yeah, that was really cool.
But if you check it out, there's like these girls in France like got the bikes together and did the exact layout of my illustration. Like they're all posed as close as they possibly could be to my illustration on motorcycles in the outfits.
That's insane.
It was insane. That's probably my favorite one just because they actually have the bikes, which is like, and it's not like they're not like the crazy cartoon bikes I have. They're like all kinds of different motorcycles, but still to be like to have gotten the motorcycles together. And she took me. I contacted the girl that organized it, and her English was a little broken because she's from France, but she did tell me that it took her like 2 months to organize that whole thing.
I would imagine.
And then they have like little YouTube videos too, like on YouTube of them, like they can't drive them. They're like someone else's. So these boys are like driving them up and like lining them up for the girls, and the girls are riding on the back, and it's like really cute.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah, when I drew that, I didn't expect anyone to. I didn't expect anyone to ever dress up as it. It was just kind of like a very self-serving illustration. Like I love Sailor Moon, and I love like cool bikes, and I love Japan, and I love like bright colors and like punk stuff, and I was just trying to like draw something really cool, and then it just kind of hit a chord with a ton of people, which is, I think people were hungry for some badass Sailor Scouts.
I really feel like it launched kind of a huge wave of fan art of punk Sailor Moon and like other magical girls like Punk Madoka and stuff. Like there's Punk Cardcaptor, which you don't see enough of. Just everything from Clamp in a studded vest is all I want. But yeah, that was really cool. I love seeing the cosplayers of that kind of stuff because it's so, especially when you draw something and you're not considering in your mind, like, how would somebody make this costume? So you're not necessarily making it easy. Yeah. Because, like, the Sailor Mars, like, that shirt thing, I remember, like, that's fairly complicated, if I'm remembering it right.
Yeah.
So, the fact that somebody put that together, and that was, I feel like that's a real thing with that Batgirl costume, is that it's so cosplayable.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
I will confess we had that in mind when we like designed it.
Yeah.
Like Cameron did the base of it really. Like he's going to post about it. He did like the base of her, and I added all the little fashiony details. You'll see a post about it soon, but
who's responsible for the clasps on the cape?
That's Cameron. That was all Cameron.
That's so good. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, they're awesome. The snaps.
The snaps.
Did you see that one fan art?
I've seen like 600 fan arts.
It's the Batgirl logo in purple, and they're in lettering in the logo. It
says "Oh snap!" Yes,
so good.
That's such a good logo.
Everyone tell DC to make this into a T-shirt and to contact this illustrator.
You should get We Love Fine. I'm sure they would do it.
We can't.
You can't? Oh, okay. I don't know what the rules are. So DC, yeah, they should do it.
They should do it.
Yeah. And make sure it's in girls' sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm already waiting for like the Batgirl shirt to be in previews. It needs to be there like yesterday. I hope that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, we need one.
In girls' sizes. Well, they had all the, not to disparage, and it's not really them, it's more the t-shirt design companies, but they have so many, like, because Previews is a magazine that comic shops order from, and they always have like female superheroes like Wonder Woman and Batgirl, but they're on like men's unisex like Gildan shirts. which never makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Well, maybe that's something we'll try to push for. Our team will try to push for, like, lady tees.
Yeah, I think they would, even that, like, a logo like that, it's not like just the basic Batgirl. I don't know. There's a million things you could do. Dark purple. Yeah,
Cameron did a great piece of fan art with a girl wearing a Batgirl shirt. We should just...
Oh, I loved that.
We should just make that shirt.
Have the girl wearing the Batgirl shirt on the Batgirl shirt.
No, just the one of the girl. So meta.
Batgirlception.
Drawing the layouts and writing it is also drawing it.
And on the back, there's a picture of Cameron drawing the layout for the T-shirt, and you're like looking at it.
Too many layers.
Going deep into the dream.
So meta.
So my transition, which is not so subtle at all, from those crazy how do you say it? Bosozuko? Bosozuko. Sailor Scouts is, how many times have you watched the first episode of Sailor Moon Crystal?
Like 7 times. I know I should. If I was a real fan, it'd be way more, but it's hard to, it's, I wish it was in English because I like once I watch it once, like I kind of like to play it in the background, understand what's going on. But I've seen it a few times and I love it. And I cried, and I was, like, really nervous about the whole thing. And there's only, like, a few things that, like, a couple things that that really bother me. But you know what? I watched it this weekend, and then I watched it again, like, back-to-back with the first episode of the original series, which I think I like the old one better still.
I think I'm always going to like the old one better.
But if you watch it back to back, I recommend this to everyone, like watch it back to back. And I think there's something that just like doesn't translate because they're trying to make it so pretty. Yeah.
I think that's true. I mean, I sort of like the crazy, awkward stumbling, like over-exaggerated expressions. It's very relatable, and because I get a little turned off by everything having to be too glossy and too pretty. And I sort of like that Serena always has those like horrible, grotesque facial expressions. In that, I say Serena, I suppose I should say Usagi for the new one, but I grew up with Sailor Moon on YTV.
I'm going to call her Serena too, like once in a while. That's okay.
I'm a bad fan. But, so I watched it too, and it was the day we had a power outage at our house, and the first thing, I woke up in the morning, my roommates were like, okay, so we have to, like, the first thing we have to do, just because we know the power's going to go out, because it was going out everywhere in town, it was a crazy storm, they were like, we have to take, the stuff out of the freezer, we have to, like, boil some water, and I was like, I have to watch Sailor Moon Crystal before our internet
everyone
dies.
Was doing, like, these super important, like, safety things, and you were, like, watching a cartoon. You're the bad roommate.
I am a really bad roommate. I helped out later.
No, that's not, if they were true friends, like, they would totally understand.
Well, it took my roommate Jess, 5 days to finally watch the episode. I act as if this is some horrible transgression, like, my friend who is a casual fan of Sailor Moon.
Yeah, what did she think?
She liked it.
Casual fan.
She liked it a lot. Yeah. And I think a lot of us were very nervous when we saw that kind of leaked clip. And we're like, oh, I don't know about this transformation sequence, but I was so charmed. Yeah. It was just so cool to see a new Sailor Moon.
I think that transformation sequence looks good, except for when you catch her face in 3D, it's like not good.
Yeah.
But still, I think I like the old transfer. I was watching the old one, and the old transformation sequence kind of feels better.
I think so.
It's not like I'm not gonna watch every single episode and cry and love it and be like so excited that this thing that I love so much like got reinvented. Like that's like I feel like so many of us like loved it so hard that we like willed the universe into making this happen for us. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
Like I don't know. I know it's hippy dippy, but I feel like if you put the right attitude and the right like vibes and love out there, like I feel like you get it back.
I mean, I have a Sailor Moon tattoo.
You do?
I have a Luna pen on my arm.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think I remember seeing it.
Yeah, that everyone occasionally thinks is a adult toy. But But it is not. It
exists
is.
somewhere.
It is the Luna pen. So I don't know. I had a lot of people being like, "You must take this really seriously, and like this better live up to your
freaked out by your
expectations." I'm just like, no. I mean, It's the same. Like, people get really crazy when something gets rebooted from their childhood, and they'll say really terrible things like, this is horrible. It destroys the first one. And like, first of all, it doesn't destroy the first one.
Yeah,
First one still exists in a million seasons and is still amazing.
Yeah.
And we get new Sailor Moon.
I was totally guilty of that. Like, I was totally guilty of, like, seeing the first images and being so disappointed. And, like, I still don't love the character design, but seeing it move and, like, the story and the talking, and it's like, and I think it looks better than the initial images that were released. Like, I think it looks softer and smoother and less, like, sketchy, and like the anatomy is like not quite as weird as what was released.
The legs seemed really spaghetti-ish in the first couple images.
Really weird. And the feet were like really big, which is like, I feel like the way Naoko, or Miss
Naoko Takeuchi.
I don't know what I should
Sorry.
Anyway, Naoko, the author of it, like
Mrs.
she didn't
Sailor
kinda draw
Moon.
that way, like in the beginning, but I feel like she got better. And
Oh yeah. After you draw 12
you don't
volumes
have
of
to
something.
do it like that not good way she used to do it. I don't know. My hope is that next season they'll maybe get a new character designer and like do it in another style,
I think
like they did in the olden times. Because Sailor Moon Super S is like, I think that looks so fucking cool. Like, oh, sorry.
that's okay. It's a podcast. You can swear. Yeah. But
yeah,
that's
I think it's like my favorite look of it all. Like, I just think like everyone looks so cool. And like even now, like it still looks like more current than the style that it's in right now, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
It doesn't look like the manga, so I understand that they didn't want to go that way.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I was really sad when I found out it was only every 2 weeks.
Oh, I know. Like last Sunday, Saturday comes out. Saturday, I was like, oh, new Sailor Moon. And then someone told me it was, like, not on this week. And I was like, no.
How are we supposed to live?
I don't know. We're very lucky to have our fandom, like, rebooted and have it not be completely horrible. So, like, in that way, I think we lucked out.
I think it
could be like the Ninja Turtles. Like, it could be that.
It could be Michael. Is it Michael Bay that's doing the scary Ninja Turtles?
Of course it is.
It is this. Those faces legitimately are hard for me to look at.
And the nerd one has like glasses and they're like taped together in the middle because he's the nerd one. Okay.
I can't handle it. Their faces are so like in the trailer when it's like Megan Fox is
we'll
looking at one of the turtles.
Maybe we're judging too early.
And he takes off the like ribbon or the mask, and I like shifted in my chair. I'm like, ew.
I also hate that. I mean, I'm sure she's a fine person.
Yeah.
But I also hate that Megan Fox is April.
Yeah.
O'Neil.
I liked her in Jennifer's Body because she's like a crazy murdering succubus. And I feel like she plays that very well.
Yeah.
That's a great movie in my opinion. But
she's well casted.
Yeah. And you did some Ninja Turtles fan art for, is it a Gallery Nucleus show?
Gallery Nucleus, yeah. It's an amazing gallery in LA, and they always have these like big sponsored shows. Like they just like that Ninja Turtles one was sponsored by Nickelodeon.
What?
Yeah, and
wow.
They even posted about it on their website, and I mean not their website, their Facebook page.
That's crazy.
And like they just did a How to Train Your Dragon one with DreamWorks, and I said I'd be in some, but I think I might have to tell them no now.
You got a couple of things to do.
Like an Adventure Time one coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Sorry, we'll have time.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, that's just crazy. Like, I can't even imagine sort of the shift from working on kind of fan art and doing a lot of, illustration for yourself, but also for the internet to being a full-time comic artist.
I can't even be full-time right now.
Well,
though,
not full-time,
still
yeah.
at Hasbro.
Right.
So it's like I'm juggling a lot. But luckily, I'm kind of used to it because when I was working, I was a game artist, like up till a couple months ago.
Okay.
And the reason...
Like video game or board game?
Apps. I was
Apps.
making
Oh, crazy.
for this great app called Elevate. People should download it. It'll help you like speak better and write better, and it's for making you smart. Had to plug my old company there.
I like it.
But yeah, I was doing that, and I would work all day, and then I would come home, and then I would like draw on my own, like every night.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at one point I was just like, I was like walking home, and I was just like so bitter, and I was like, what am I doing it for? Like, who am I trying to impress? Like, all I do is like I get up and I work, and then I go home and I work, and then I get up again and I work, and then I don't go out really late on Fridays because I have to work all day on Saturday because it's like I have whole hours like all day to myself. So, and like I was walking home one day and I was like really feeling curmudgeony about the whole thing, and then like that next day, like Hasbro wanted me to come out here for like a long time, and they're like encouraging me to like quit my full-time job because they would like promise me like a lot of work. And I also heard from DC, like from an editor that day.
Wow.
So it was like it didn't become real until I heard from that editor. Like before that, it was just like talks with Cameron and stuff, and he was like, okay, it's like it's down to you and one other person. And I'm like, okay, like I'll get excited when it like I just
don't tell me that.
I was not like
I had a similar experience.
Get excited and get like disappointed if I didn't get it, and it just felt like such a crazy reach. And I remember talking to him about Hasbro, and he was like, well, I don't know about, like this Batgirl thing's like still in the air, so you should take that job. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go work for them. And I committed 2 months, and that way, like if Batgirl happened, like I could have given them the 2 months and still like be able to do Batgirl. But it's gotten so popular, and
it's huge.
They want some stuff early now, so it's overlapping a little bit, so it's a little crazy right now. But my whole story is that I'm used to it, so I should be okay.
I think it comes from that same kind of place. I mean, you really sort of hit it when you're talking about Sailor Moon. It's just like, if we want this bad enough, it might happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like this Batgirl is like that for a lot of people. Like, we're getting it from Marvel.
Yeah.
And now it's like, because it's just, I mean, for the longest time, that's been the discussion in the Valkyries, is like, oh man, like all these Marvel comics, like they're finally sort of starting to take notice of their big female audience. And the joke was always like, oh yeah, no, this is never going to happen at DC. And then when Cameron started talking to me about this Batgirl, I'm just like, no fucking way. Really? And everybody, like, just so excited. And I feel like...
Don't you think it's Mark Doyle's doing? Like, when I first started talking to Cameron, I was like kind of researching DC, and I read that he just recently took over all the Bat titles, and then all this like cool Bat stuff is happening.
Because Gotham Academy looks so cool too.
Yeah.
And that's going to be awesome.
Brendan's on that one too. Brendan's writing for that one.
Yeah, and is it him and Becky are writing it?
Him and Becky are writing it,
Coonan?
and then Carl
Kerschel?
Yes, Carl Kerschel's drawing it, and his drawings are really good.
That's going to be awesome too. And we were all really excited about that. And then, it was so, because I knew the Batgirl was coming, and I saw all these girls in the group like freaking out about Gotham Academy, and I'm just sitting there like clacking my fingernails together. You just wait. Because obviously it is very exciting. I love that Becky Cloonan is writing some comics and stuff now. Like anything she can have her hands in, I'm down to buy it. Because I love her and her stuff. Yeah,
I knew of her art, but I didn't know she was a writer.
Well, I mean, she writes all her sort of creator-owned stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because she's done like the Meyer and Demeter and Wolves, and when that all got connected into By Chance or Providence, like that's all her writing and drawing, and so it's neat to see her writing too. Because I don't know, whatever Becky Cloonan can be involved in, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, and I know the boys were really nervous about having taking over the title and changing it from like a girl writer, Gail, to Simone, to 2 boys, and so they were really adamant about getting some girl artists on the team.
That's really cool.
That's why he got me and Jordy, and I think that's really cool. And even now, like even that even now while they're writing, like they'll ask me like my thoughts on things, and I'll collaborate with Cameron a lot. Like even like a little bit of story stuff, they'll ask my input, which I think is really cool. Like, first off, I'm like nobody, so like they don't really have to listen to me, but like to take a girl's point of view.
Nobody who
like
draws Batgirl.
Like no.
You can't do that anymore. You can't be like, I'm nothing.
I know, I guess that's true. Well, you know, I can draw, but the story stuff is like, you know, I would never like be like, oh, I can write something. So, you know, I don't know if my suggestions are always like the best, like for the story, but like girl stuff wise, like I know like, oh, like she wouldn't really like that, wouldn't really, this would be how that would go. You know, like, and they're like, oh yeah, well yeah, lady stuff, yeah, okay.
I think it's really neat. I mean, I love kind of a gender balanced creative team. Like almost everything I work on is for male artists, and it wasn't like that on purpose. It just kind of is what keeps happening. But like in Bravest Warriors, like my editor is a man and a woman. Ian is drawing it, and then it's colored by a woman, and like it's a very sort of gender balanced creative team, and I like that a lot. And it's cool that Batgirl is like that. I mean, especially with Jordy on colors, because I find her coloring really influences the story too, because it's so good. We
have some really neat like types of scenes coming up where she like, we did this like Sherlock Holmes sort of thing. She like goes into her mind space, and I think, you know, Jordy's coloring style is really going to sing with with those parts.
It's exciting. I mean, I know Gail Simone's run is super beloved, and I'm sure she's working on something awesome right now. Because if she's gonna kill it, whatever she's doing. Yeah, whatever she's doing. I mean, it's Gail Simone, but and I think people don't have to worry that she's not going to be making comics. She will always be making comics. But I'm really excited. I mean, I'm always fairly optimistic about. I'm not usually the person to be like, oh, they announced this. It's so stupid. Like, I'm the guy that's like, oh, yeah, they're doing this thing. I'm so excited. I mean, you've seen me.
Lady Thor? What do you think about that?
I don't know how I feel about it, because there was already Valkyrie. And obviously I have a soft spot for Valkyries. But I'm, again, my first reaction is I will read the first issue. And if it's good, I will keep buying it. Reaction. I think it's the way you have to be. I mean, especially, you know, where I'm coming at it from the retail side, and I work at the comic shop, and I used to be full-time. I just work like once a week now. But dealing with people day in and day out who have these crazy instinctual responses to something that's just an announcement or just a picture or just a teaser, and they're like spitting fire about it before it even exists. And that makes me crazy. Because I'm like, what? I mean, good for you that your life is so decent that this is something you can get really angry about. Because obviously, if you're that mad about this costume change or like that character moving to a different city, then like your life's pretty good. But
there was one guy that like I noticed he sent me like 2 really nasty messages, and he also like was harassing Cameron, and I was just laughing. I was like, oh, he's just going through the team. Because at first I felt really bad, because I've gotten a couple messages where they thought all the girly stuff was like my doing. Mm-hmm. Like they look at my art and they look at that I'm, you know, they see I'm a woman, and I think they see the way the direction goes, and they think like, oh, like look at this must be Babs' doing, you know, and it's really not like all this, like all that great stuff is like the boys, like that was their initial concept from the get-go, and it's really fun, and I think it's great that they see that there's like a need for that kind of thing.
I think it's exciting. I think it's really cool that Cameron is super pushing for it, and I've definitely seen that because I've been talking to him as this has sort of been coming together, and you know, it's not something that he's kind of half-assed about. Like, he's in this to make change, and I think all of you guys have this what seems like a very cohesive kind of vision, and it's something that people obviously want so badly. Just a change, just something that they can start reading. Like, I talk all the time about the fact that when a 12-year-old girl comes into my comic shop, there's no DC titles I can sell her. There's nothing. Like, the bad titles are all too violent. They're not interested in super peripheral characters, and they're not interested in stuff that's really gory. And so there are lots of comics for them, but not from DC right now. And this is something that, I mean, as far as I can tell, a 12 or 13-year-old girl will lose her shit over. and that is...
It might be a little too old for that.
Well, like a slightly mature 13-year-old, maybe.
Yes.
Me at 13. Because I was always watching and reading stuff that was too old for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're at least, you know, teen girls or new readers or guys, like people who get into superheroes through the movies or just through hearing about it and then don't want to read, you know, 500 issues of something or don't want to have to read 17 different titles at a time. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for making something accessible and making something new and exciting. And I think, you know, it seems to me that this is what you guys are doing, and I'm stoked about it. Me
too. Like I said earlier, like, I'm kind of jealous that this didn't exist when I was younger. And I think, like, you know, because you know my art, and I'm going to make it's going to be like Archie comics where, like, the girls are always wearing different outfits. And, like, you know, I'm going to try to make each one have their own style, and each issue is going to have, like, different fashions in it. And their faces are going to look cute. And I know that sounds like, oh, Babs, like, come on, like, people don't look disformed in comics, but, like, I feel like I look at some panels by, like, some artists, and they just, like, their faces are weird. I don't know. I'm just trying. I'm going to try to make them look, like, cute.
Well, I mean, I grew up on Archie, too, and I was reading this Trina Robbins book on this crazy long plane ride that I had recently that's all about sort of the history of girls' comics and how when comics first started, when it was Timely Comics and when Archie was first coming out, like, girls were the majority consumers of comic books because it was Archie and because it was Katie Keene. And I would assume that you love Katie Keene.
Yes.
Yeah. So I kind of, like, there's flavors of that, obviously, that influence this a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think if people have kind of a negative knee-jerk response there, for every one of those people, I think there's like 100 girls who are like, oh man, there's nothing like that right now.
Yeah, like, I think Cameron definitely, he tweeted something that was so true, and he was like, for every 40-year-old dude that doesn't like it, you know, they're like worth one girl that is like all about it. So, you know, or 20 girls that are like all about it. So it's like,
I think it's totally true.
It's totally true. Like, you know, like, we did have a couple people say nasty things, but there's so much of an outpour of love. It really just felt like a fly, like, buzzing around your head. You know, you're like, nah. You know, like, it's pretty cool.
I've never seen such a unanimous.
I hope everyone loves it when it comes out. Like, now I'm really there. Like, now it's like game time.
And people should pre-order it, right, Babs?
They should pre-order it. I think my dad went to the comic shop today and tried to pre-order it. And I think you can't for like another week, maybe.
Really?
Or you can subscribe, but Dad was like trying to pre-order like 50 issues or something.
Yeah?
There's something he couldn't do yet. And he was like, ooh.
Well, for people who do want to give a specific pre-order code for Batgirl, it is AUG, as in AUG, 140285, which I think is going to be in the next issue of previews, like the full solicitation, I would assume.
So, yeah.
But that is, or just
say Batgirl 35. You want
Batgirl 35.
Batgirl 35.
That works too. Before I let you get back to, I'm sure, an enormous pile of work, you're a person like myself who is on Tumblr and do you read a lot of sequential comics, like stuff that sort of monthlies, or are you more an internet comic and art person?
Like, I've read Kate Beaton stuff. Like, I know, like, if something is making the rounds, like, of course I'll read it because it's cool. Mm-hmm. But Cameron has been really awesome. He's been, like, recommending me things to read. So I've been trying out Daredevil.
Oh, yeah, the newer one with Chris Samney on the art?
Yes. And they're gorgeous.
So pretty.
They're so pretty. And I love his artwork and his use of, like, the black blocking. Like, that's kind of something I've never tried before, so I'm going to try to, like, incorporate some of that. Mm-hmm. And then he gave me Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon.
Yeah. Hawkeye's so good.
Which is also really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Kate, what's her name? His assistant, the new Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah, Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop. I really like her outfit in that one.
Her, the artist who does her stories, Annie Wu, I feel like is someone that you would either know or be a fan of.
Annie was my classmate in college.
See? I knew it.
And we even had, at our commencement show, like, our stuff was, like, like right next to each other.
She's somebody I've been following since you guys were probably in school together.
Annie's amazing. She's just like, even in school, like she was just on another level.
Yeah, she's awesome. Well, you guys are both incredible. And you know,
I love her Batgirl Beyond. Like, I don't know why that's not like a ongoing thing.
Yeah, that was really cool. Her doing any comic stuff I get so excited about.
Anything Annie's doing is awesome.
Yeah, at any given time. Well, that's good stuff. I mean, those are very solid recommendations.
Wait, I've got a couple. I got one more.
Do it.
Deadly Class.
Oh man, that's so good.
Which is really cool. I really liked Daredevil because it's like he's pretty sassy. I never realized how sassy he was because before I read this, I was only knew about the not so good movie that was made.
Yeah.
But yeah, his character's really cool, and this Deadly Class one is pretty fun too. Did you read the last one? There's this really trippy like drug sequence that they drew.
Yeah, all the acid stuff.
It's so cool.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
So anyway, I'm trying to like gauge how much detail the artists are doing in the backgrounds and stuff because that's kind of something I've got to like kind of develop a style as I'm drawing, like my comic styles I'm drawing right now, and it's kind of neat to see like, okay, this is. Are
you throwing things at your microphone right now?
No, sorry, I was like looking at the comics while I was talking.
Oh, okay. Have you read Batgirl Year 1 yet?
No, I haven't.
In terms of for you and anybody, because I'm not an extensive Batgirl reader, but Batgirl Year 1, I think it's Marcos Martin doing the art on that one, and he's incredible. And that one is it's like, you know, Batgirl's first year, kind of. I mean, an old continuity Batgirl, but it comes in a book with Robin Year 1, which is drawn by Javier Pulido, who's the current artist on She-Hulk, and their styles are fairly similar. But I think you would really, really like it. Okay,
yeah, I'll definitely check it out. That is a great recommendation.
I also really like the Stephanie Brown run on Batgirl, which was like, she was Batgirl for a while instead of Barbara Gordon, which was a fun. It's more focusing on like a girl having fun and being it's a lot more lighthearted.
What was that one?
It's I think it's just called Batgirl, but it's like Stephanie Brown. It's when she's Batgirl, and it comes. Okay. I think it might be out of print right now, which is really stupid, but you can find it.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to go.
Just ask your DC people; they'll get it to you.
I'm so excited to go in a comic shop. But I remember picking up these comics like that Cameron recommended like a month ago. Yeah. And I was like looking up what I wanted, and he was like, "Is this like for a present for someone or something?"
Oh my God! Oh no, that's horrible.
I know. I was like, "No."
Go in next time with a shirt that says "I draw Batgirl."
I know. I want to go back and be like, "Oh yeah, I'd like to pre-order this."
I've heard that from so many people. I mean, all the girls working on Lumberjanes have had that experience, and I just want them to go up to the counter and be like,
yeah, that's who did that great Noelle Stevenson did like something that just struck such a chord with me, and she did that comic about going into a shop and like getting like treated like, you know, not taking seriously, and who hasn't felt that in like one of those shops, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I think at the end of it, she like ended up not standing up for herself, but I think that's, you know, I remember blogging it and saying a little something like not that she was wrong, but it's like, I feel like you could totally like sass those guys back. Like if they're going to be that blatantly rude to you, like you should definitely like put them in their place just a little bit.
Take up space.
I feel like once that gate is open, like, oh, you're going to be rude? Okay, let's play.
I like it. Babs, so you're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con and you're going to be at Boston Comic-Con. Are you anywhere else this year?
Let me think. I'm going to go, I have a table at CTNX, which is like an animation expo.
And where's that?
It's in like the LA area.
Okay.
I don't think it's quite in LA. I think it might be in Anaheim or something, but it's definitely near there. And then I'm going to be at Emerald City Comic-Con, but that one might be next year.
Yeah, Emerald City's in the spring.
And then
I will hopefully be there as well.
I applied for a table at Ape, so we'll see if
I can't see you not getting into anywhere now.
You want to hear a fun story?
I hear a fun story.
New York Comic-Con, I applied to them, and they did not give me a table.
I imagine they're probably going to change their minds.
They did. I have one now. Like, they comped DC a bunch of tables, and I have DC's comp tables. But
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I have to use Boom to get into some conventions, so
I was like,
it's fine.
I was like,
do what you got to do.
I was just. It felt good to like get the table at the end of the day.
I imagine that. So if people want to find
grandfather people in, I think that
if people want to find you online, you have a couple Tumblrs, right? Is it Babs is you or?
Yep, babsbabsbabs.com. It's like my portfolio fancy Tumblr. Mm-hmm. It's like it's my portfolio, but it's also a Tumblr, so you can follow it. But if you want to see like my day-to-day like doodly things, babsdraws.tumblr.com. Mm-hmm. And then it's just Babs Draws across the board, like on Twitter, on Instagram, all that jazz.
And Batgirl 35 comes out October 8th.
October 8th.
It's happening.
NYCC is going to be crazy.
It is. Oh, man. It's going to be crazy. Well, good luck at San Diego. It's coming up damn soon. I cannot wait to see photos of you and the boys and all the cosplayers.
I can't wait to meet them. I haven't met the boys yet, so it'll be good to meet them in person.
That'll be very exciting. Tell Cameron he has to do karaoke for you. He practices very hard.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I cannot imagine.
All right, Babs, thank you so much for talking to me, and I am so stoked for your series.
All right, thank you for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
I know that you want into the pages inside my heart.
So that's it for another episode of Less Than Live. I am off to New York to go see Katy Perry with a caravan of friends, but I'll be back in a couple weeks with some special guests I'm pretty excited about. In the meantime, rate and review us on iTunes. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at LTLcast, or at lessthanlivecast.tumblr.com. Download an audiobook. I told you before, but I mean it. It's audibletrial.com/lessthanlive, and it's free. And there's a billion audiobooks, so try it. What do you got to lose? If you need more things to listen to, you can get our very catchy theme song playing behind me on iTunes by looking up Less Than Live, or through villagesoundcast.com if you are listening to this outside of iTunes. That's all for this week, everybody. Read more comics.
I don't know how you don't know this by now, but this was a Village Soundcast Network original production.